Bara raced ahead and was first to reach the room. She had the remaining piece of pie in one hand and had to fiddle with her key to get the door open. Amy had just crested the stairs and Bara was inside. Odd. Amy had turned out the light, but everything was ablaze, and the curtains were open again. They flapped in the wind. The diary. Bara ran to her desk and threw down the pie. It slid half off the plate and onto an unfinished Shakespeare essay. "What's wrong?" Amy asked from the doorway. "The diary, it's gone." Amy closed the door and joined her at the desk. She moved a few papers aside, but there was no doubt. The diary definitely wasn't there. "I left it here. I know I did." Bara looked through the pile of papers one last time and then plopped herself down on her bed in frustration. Somebody stole it. Who would have done that? Miss Corey was the only one who knew we had it. It had to be her. She took it. "I don't think Miss Corey would break into our room and steal anything. Maybe it fell on the floor." Amy went down on her knees and began to search around. She was under the desk when a crash sounded. Startled, she bumped her head and let out a gasp of pain. Bara shushed her and then helped her up. "Someone's in there," she whispered, pointing to the closet. "The thief?" Amy mouthed. Bara nodded. "Let's get help." Bara shook her head and took Amy's hand, stopping her from leaving the room. She grabbed a hockey stick from where it leaned against the wall and crept towards the closet door. She put her hand on the handle. Amy looked around the room for something with which to arm herself. She settled on an empty vase and came up beside Bara. Slowly, Bara turned the knob. She lifted the hockey stick into the air, ready to strike, and threw open the door. Her arm froze. "It's me! It's me!" Colin Van Fitt cowered in the closet, one arm protecting his face. The other hand held the diary. It was obvious what had happened. He'd snuck into the room, something he did on a regular basis, scaling the wall outside the window. Hearing a noise in the hallway, he'd hidden. Boys, no matter how innocent their intent, were not allowed in St. Cat dorm rooms. Bara dropped the hockey stick and grabbed the diary. Amy replaced the vase and put her hand out to Colin. He accepted the help. "You're going to get caught one of these days, Col," Amy warned, "and then we'll all be in trouble. Couldn't you have waited until tomorrow?" "I was bored." "Won't they miss you at your dorm?" "Nah, my roommate's gone home early for Thanksgiving. I have the place to myself." Colin eyed the pie, expectantly, perhaps pleadingly. No one knows hunger like a growing teenage boy, and boy was Colin growing. "Bored?" Amy chuckled. "Hungry, more like it." Colin grinned. His smile was his best feature. Actually, with his auburn hair and warm brown eyes, he was kind of good-looking, but one had to look up, way up, to notice. Colin was probably closer to 7 than 6 feet tall. He scooped up the pie and threw himself onto Amy's bed, stretching on his long and painfully lean frame. His feet hung more than a foot off the end. Taking large, ravenous bites, he set upon devouring the dessert. "Don't get food on my bed, you big slob." Amy brushed at a few crumbs that had already fallen. Colin sat up and ate more carefully. "Where'd you get the book, Barbie doll?" he mumbled with his mouth full of pie. Bar didn't like to be called anything but Bara. Not Bar, not Bar, and certainly not Barbie doll. But she'd known Colin since she was 5. She loved him like a brother. She had no actual siblings and so put up with it. But still focused on the diary, she didn't answer him. She sat down on the other bed. Amy shook her head. "You wouldn't believe it if we told you." "Did you get it from your dad?" Colin continued to focus on Bara. Bara didn't even look up. Colin shoveled one last forkful of pie into his mouth. He placed the empty plate back on the desk, reached over with his extraordinarily long arms, and grabbed the diary. "Hey!" He ignored the protest. "Won't he be miffed to find it's missing? Looks like it's worth a mint. I'd keep it under lock and key." "Maybe it should be, if only to keep it out of your mitts. And no, I didn't get it from my dad." She got up from her bed and went to reclaim the diary. Colin jumped to his feet and held it above his head. Bara made a jump, but gave up quickly. Even standing on a chair, there was no way she could have reached it. "Give it back!" Colin gave a challenging smile. Bara would never retrieve it from his airy reach. A firmer approach was needed. She elbowed him in the ribs. He buckled over and collapsed like a folding chair, laughing and moaning at the same time. Amy grabbed the diary and returned it to Bara. Bara sat back down on her bed, clutching it to her chest. Defeated, Colin rolled over on his side and propped his head on his arm, quite at home on Amy's bed. Amy, not entirely sure where she should sit, eventually chose the floor. Colin tried again. "If you didn't get it from your dad, where'd you get it?" "Like Amy said, you wouldn't believe it." "Try me." Bara looked at Amy. Amy nodded. Okay, then. We found it at the library. The library? Oh, of course. Where else would you get a book? Come on, no library would let you take that out. We didn't check it out, Amy told him. Barr shot her a warning glance. You mean you stole it? Colin said with mock intensity. You did. You stole it. Did Amy drive the getaway car while you and your best blacks pulled off the heist of the century? Colin and no one else was finding himself quite entertaining. Chuckling away, he added, I'm shocked, ladies, but don't worry. I won't turn you into the sheriff. For a price, anyways. Lame, Barr shot back. She stood and went to put the diary away. Okay, I'll be serious. Just tell me. Barr didn't look convinced, but she sat back down. I think we should tell him, Amy urged. Maybe he can help. Help with more dumb jokes? I'll be nice, I promise. Colin knelt and struck a beggar's stance, hands clasped together. Barr couldn't help herself. She smiled. Amy was right. Even if Colin found humor in just about everything, often at her expense, she could always count on him to have her back. Okay, she relented. We found it at the library. A dream led me to it. Like a confused puppy, Colin cocked his head to the side. A dream? Really? Then he just couldn't help himself. Was I in it? Barr threw up her hands. I told you, he can't be serious. Unbelievable. Just forget it. Forget we said anything. You were right the first time. We got it from my dad. That's all. So just forget about it. Colin, realizing he'd pushed too far, tried to sound staid. Okay, tell me about the dream. Do I smell like a lollipop? Barr sniffed her sweater. Nope, not a sucker. She grabbed another book that happened to be handy. It was the plays of William Shakespeare. Not even noting the page, she pretended to read. Colin looked at Amy. Amy shrugged. Colin crawled to the side of Barr's bed. Poking his head above the edge, he said, faking a lisp, Barbie, will you tell me, pretty please? She put down the book. He smiled victoriously. A premature celebration. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at his head, hitting him square on. All right, he pleaded, I give up. Barr threw another pillow. It hit as well. Cease fire, really, I believe you. She grabbed a stuffed bear and was about to throw it too. Colin held up his hands in surrender. Peace. Barr didn't look convinced. Honest? He nodded. She put down the bear and pretended to read again. Colin crawled up onto the bed and perched on the edge. He wasn't going to give up. But seriously, how did you find the book? Barr sighed. Okay, fine, but you have to promise not to laugh. The Wisp is published on Amazon.com. Also available on Amazon is Monsters, Real and Imagined, Tragic, Frightening, and Funny, All Too Brief, a collection of short stories and poetry. Strays, a collection of short stories and philosophical love poems, and Tattoo, Calling All Soldiers Home, a collection of poems in brevity.